Hey friends, Pastor Josh here, and this is the weekly update for Redeeming Grace Church. It's Friday, June 17th of 2022. This update's coming out a little bit later in the week because I just got back from Anaheim, California at the SBC annual meeting, the denomination that we are a part of. Had their big powwow, and it was a powwow this week. I thought about sending an update kind of partway through, but I was just maxed from 6:30 a.m. till about 10:30 at night, just involved in everything that I could. And also kind of needed some time to think through what exactly happened while we were there. Some good, some not so good. But I'll get to that in a moment. Before I do, just some church things going on. We have our open house tonight. We're doing this basically every Friday as a family. So starting around 6 o'clock, we'll have tacos here at 14 Adonia Lane and just play games and hang out. We did that for the first time last week, had about 25 of us that hung out, which was really fun. And so around 6, you could show up. You can show up anytime after that if you'd like. People last week stayed till about 10:30. You don't have to stay that long, but you could if you wanted to. And so we just invite you to come on out tonight and just hang out with us. The second thing is that be praying for the Vegas trip. They leave not this Sunday, but the following Sunday in the evening. They'll be gone June 26th to July 3rd, so pray for those ladies that are going on that. And then they are looking for kid-sized swimsuits and towels. The ministry that they're working with, sometimes kids don't have those things. And they take them to the pool and do kind of recreation stuff in the summers, and those kids don't have those things. So if you wanted to purchase those or you wanted to just donate them, well, whatever you want to do, but the next 2 Sundays you could bring those just to worship and make sure that Bree gets those, and they'll get packed up and be a blessing to those kids down there, which would be great. So be praying for that, and if you want to contribute, you can. Another thing is that we have a family meeting on June 26th, so just over a week, like we normally do, usual place and time. We are going to make a little bit of a change to the elder process. We had talked about at our May meeting voting on these 3 candidates at the June meeting. We're going to delay that. We're not going to vote. And in fact, we might not vote until the August meeting just because the summer people are out, and we don't want to go faster than we should, but we don't want to go slower than we should either. And so having talked with you and with the candidates, here's what we're going to do is that questionnaire that I sent out to you, I've asked them to fill it out. Just fill it out all in writing. And so far I have one of them. I have Jamie's. Waiting on Steve and Justin's. And when I get those, I will send those out. And then at the June meeting, we'll do more questioning. But what we'll do is you'll have that. You'll already have their answers. And then you can ask follow-up questions, which I think will cause it to go better. And I think what we'll do is we'll just do each candidate one at a time. So we'll, for instance, put Jamie up there. You can have his questionnaire printed out, ask some follow-up questions, and then it's just kind of taking each candidate one at a time. If after 20 minutes we feel comfortable that we've asked Jamie all the questions that we want to ask publicly, then we bring him down and then put Steve or Justin up, and just, whatever we get through, we get through. And if we don't get through all the questioning, then we'll reevaluate and reset the pace at that point. So that's the plan. So expect some questionnaires to come in your email in the next couple of days, hopefully. Look those over, pray those over, consider whatever follow-up questions you might have, and then, at the June 26th meeting, members, be ready to continue our examination of these elder candidates, and I think that will be good. So SBC. I'll just give a few highlights because I could talk probably for hours on the things we experienced and how we went about it and conversations I had. So I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version, and then if there's anything you want to double click on and get more info on, or want to get more of my perception of things, I'd be happy to just reach out to me, and I'd be happy to do that. I may trickle out more thoughts in upcoming family meeting videos as well, but I'm having pastors across the country who I'm friends with who weren't at the meeting asking for my take on things, and it's what they've heard in the media is almost always inaccurate. So there's always an angle to things, and being in the room is so different than what is reported about the meeting. So I'll just give some Cliff Notes here, and then if you want to know or you've read something that's concerning, be happy to give you my take on it. You can do with that what you want. So one thing is that the Sex Abuse Task Force brought two main recommendations. We approved both of those overwhelmingly. It's not all that we need to do, but those recommendations are good. I won't describe them here. I can describe those in person if you'd like. But it was a good first start, and the victims of sexual abuse that have been pushing for this were so grateful, both by the kind of public lament and apology for how our organization had treated them, but then also these steps are a good step in the right direction. It's not all, for sure, but it's going to take us probably several years to sort of change the culture of the SBC, and this is a huge step, and the fact that it passed overwhelmingly is really, really encouraging, and so we did the right thing in the right way on that front. Secondly, the executive committee, which is tasked with carrying out the will of the messengers to basically the decisions we made this week, they have the other 363 days of the year have the responsibility of carrying that out. They were the ones that were investigated and found that they had mishandled sexual abuse stuff. Well, through this whole process of investigation, many people resigned off that committee. And we replenished it, and I'm really impressed with the leadership, the new leadership, and the new people that are on that. I've got some friends that are on the executive committee, and they speak very well that the culture is definitely different on that team already, and I think we're going to be much healthier for it going forward. So while it was painful to go through this process of this investigation and grieved by what we found, man, it is so much better. Just the disposition and the people that are on that, I'm just really encouraged by some of the immediate results, painful as they were. I think this is good for us. So that's a second thing. Third, there was a really contentious presidential election between Tom Askell and Bart Barber. There were a couple other candidates as well, but those two were really the two main ones. And so a lot of energy went into that in the months leading up, a lot of tension about that in the room. Bart Barber won. The final vote was he got like 60%, and Tom Askell got just under 40%. That was in the final runoff. And I'm really glad. That's a good thing. Tom Askell and the group that he's a part of is just very harsh. Seems like they're kind of in the middle of a power grab. They're very disrespectful. I agree with some of their concerns, but their approach and the way they're going about it, I was really glad that didn't gain the upper hand in our meeting. Bart Barber, he's just an ordinary pastor in Texas. This is the first time in over 50 years that the SBC has elected a president that isn't a megachurch pastor. And I think that's good. I don't know Bart real personally. I talked with him briefly. He seems like just an ordinary, average guy. I don't know what he thinks on every theological thing. I'm sure we don't agree on everything. But he has a sweet disposition to him, and I think in light of all the contention and all of the kind of throwing mud at each other and all the controversy, I think he'll have a calming effect on the convention. And yeah, he's just an ordinary pastor, which is such a good sign, I think, for our convention to move away from celebrity culture and power grabbing to just an ordinary pastor who I think is just going to be an ordinary guy. The other big thing that you maybe saw in the news was there was a recommendation brought last year to investigate Saddleback Church, which is Rick Warren's, one of the largest churches in the country, and the fact that they ordained women as pastors. And so is that consistent with our statement of faith? It's not. And what should we do? Should we disfellowship them? And so the Credentials Committee, which have an impossible job, they basically came back to the convention with a question of going, we need some clarification. We're not bringing a recommendation either to affirm or dismiss them as a church because there is some question about what the word pastor and kind of how that works. So the Credentials Committee came, I think, essentially with what was a question. We need a clarification on what you're asking us to do here. And then the convention really blasted them in a way that I thought was a little bit unfair, because I think there was a misunderstanding that they were not saying that they think that women should be pastors. I think they were asking for clarification in this specific case of like how would you like us to interpret the statement of faith in light of this context? And so my take is that there's not all of a sudden a move to now be ordaining women pastors. I think in this particular case, and in light of the fact that we're in his backyard, and there were security concerns, the convention essentially didn't take any action on it. And I actually, I think we could have taken action. They clearly have been outside of SBC norms for a long time. They probably, I was kind of surprised that they're actually still SBC, because they just are so different in how they do things than we do. So I wasn't bothered necessarily that we didn't immediately disfellowship them. I think that's going to happen in the next year. I think either they will withdraw or it'll come at the next meeting, or actually this credentials committee can bring it to the executive committee and it can be handled between meetings as well. So it was odd because he came and spoke and really kind of trumpeted how great he is and the numbers that he puts forth, and that we should stop fighting about secondary issues. And it was very disingenuous. It was really odd and weird, and felt a little bit like him kind of, flipping everybody off. I guess that's maybe a crass way to put it, but kind of on his way out. So maybe it was good for us not to sort of overreact and make a decision based on that. But I do think that ultimately they will be outside the SBC within the next year, either by their decision or ours. And I think that's right. I think that's good. But it was an odd thing, and there's all kinds of narratives spinning out of it. I wouldn't read too much into those. And if you want more information on exactly how that happened and what my take is on where we're at, I don't think we're going liberal. I just don't think that. I don't think there's confusion about what a pastor is. I think the particulars of this meeting and the timing of things and some of the security concern, there's a whole lot of factors that I think led to a non-decision. And I actually think that's okay. I would have been fine with us making a decision. But I am aware of some of the things that went, maybe a snap decision in light of the tension in the room. Maybe it's good for us to be more measured in what we're doing and be clear about what we're doing and why, with good patient teaching. I think that's always wise. And there's definitely differences of opinion in the room, and there's some concerns about that I have. But overall, I think it's okay. I think we're going to work this out, and I think over time, this clarification will be really good for us, and overall the ministry will be healthier. But just having a longer time scope than just this 2-day meeting, essentially. So, so what was good? I think we mostly made the right decisions. There's some that could go a different way, but I think overall we made the right decisions. What was bad is the way we treat each other and how political it gets, and how much of a power grab it is, particularly from those on the more conservative side, which is really frustrating, because I agree with them so much theologically, but their tone and their attitude and their approach just looks like the world. It just looks like political punditry, and it's slandering brothers and sisters unnecessarily. And that group is so fickle. Last year they were pushing so hard that CRT and intersectionality is going to destroy our country and destroy the convention. It wasn't even brought up. It was brought up one time indirectly this year. So I'm concerned about that kind of hard right side that just wants to rip things up and tear people down. I am also concerned about those that publicly applaud Rick Warren, and it's like, hey, you're not thinking well about theology. And so I feel somewhat caught in the middle of going, hey, I want to be convictional theologically and for us to be clear theologically, but I don't want to be a jerk to people, and I don't want to slander brothers and sisters. God will judge them severely, I think, some of those that are involved in that. On the other side, hey, it's not all about the numbers, and there is some concerns to the left, I guess you could say, on the more liberal or less convictional side of things, and so I'm concerned about more about both sides. But overall, I'm largely encouraged, because I think we are slowly but surely getting good, thoughtful, convictional, but gracious people in places of leadership, and it's not going to work out perfect in every case, but I do think that I want to stay and I want to keep working for good. I see under the big headlines is all of these little seedlings of good things that are happening, and I think if we nurture that, it'll begin to bear fruit as a lot of that high rhetoric, the big bombastic headline stuff dies off. Underneath all of that is the real growth, and so we just need to be faithful as a church to do the right things with the right attitude. We need to do the same thing in our association, which is why I'm involved in that, in our state convention. things like the Pillar Network and those kinds of things are doing a winsome job of slowly but surely, in a Christ-like way, bringing about the kind of reforms that I think would please Jesus in the way that pleases Jesus. So that's where we're at. My assessment was longer than I expected, but hopefully that's helpful. You can skip it. You can speed it up. You can ask any further questions that you want. I love you. Hope that you can come hang out with us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning. Bye.